Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Connecting to Healing interview. I have the wonderful Jean Hanson here to interview today. I'm so excited to see you again, Jean.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's good to see you too.
So, I would love to take our audience down memory lane about your healing journey and how it began, what your aha moments were, and how it led you to start this beautiful business that you have out there in Mesa.
All right. Thank you. So, my healing journey was, in relative terms, it was pretty recent. It started in 2015, about 8 years ago. And my husband and I have always been in business together since the year we got married. So it's been a long time. And it's always been in the same industry, but we've had different businesses within that industry. And most recently, we started a virtual business, an online business, I should say, in 2005. And so we'd been running it for 10 years, made us a very good living. I loved our businesses, but I was just feeling so burned out on it. I was feeling so stressed out. I'm like, is this all there is, really? And I'm in my 50s by now. And so I'm like, I got to start thinking about retirement. But I wasn't, I was nowhere near ready to retire. But I'm just, I'm thinking about that's coming. And is this really what I'm going to keep doing for the rest of my life? Because I was just feeling so stressed. So, and to kind of go back, as far as my spiritual background, I was raised Catholic. And I really, at the time, I equated spirituality with religion. And I could not really reconcile the dogma of that religion with being spiritual. By the time I was 18, I left the church. The only thing that really resonated with me during that time is I did love the stories of Jesus. I really felt, drawn to him. And I think it was simply because it was the only stories that had no judgment. It was all about love and giving and healing, and then you go back to church and it's like, well, you got to confess your sins. So I spent the rest of my life up until this point in 2015 where I had no practice. I had no spiritual practice. I had no religion. My life was all about work, and we were never able to have kids, and so our business was our child. And I just, I couldn't take it anymore. And so I was at a networking event, and I joined a local networking event. I was in Minneapolis at the time. And just to make friends and connect, because our business was virtual and my clients weren't there, but it was fun. And a woman who is a feng shui consultant, she said she was doing a workshop, 6 hours of training over 3 weeks of time. And I'd always had this mild fascination with feng shui, but I had never really pursued any education around it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, I need some fun. I'm going to do this. And so I did it, and I loved it. And come to find out that she's also an intuitive and she does readings. And
Oh,
so I had never had a reading, and I'm like, I got to do this. And so she ended up doing 3 readings with me, which were really powerful. And so I'm like, you know what? I feel like I need a spiritual teacher. I need to reconnect with my own spirituality. And so we started working together for the next 4 years. So it was, we were doing like twice a week, and then we went to once a month. But so I learned so much. I just totally ditched all my business and marketing books and just dove into this world, right? And so in 2019, we did stop working together. I was kind of on, another path of partly to do with my business. I was building my team so that I could free up more of my time to figure out what I really wanted to do. And so I was deep in that. What I didn't realize was that I was positioning our business to eventually sell. And so then in August of 2019, that's when my awakening happened. And so I was listening to an interview on Gaia, and it was a woman that was talking about how she uses her pendulum to connect to her higher guidance. And I thought, that's weird. I wonder why in the 4 years that Kim and I worked together, we never talked about pendulums. Well, I know now that I wasn't meant to until I got that really caught my attention when she started talking about that. So she recommended a book. So I immediately bought a pendulum, bought the book she recommended. And from the minute I picked up that pendulum, it started working. I mean, it
Wow.
started responding to everything. I kind of went through the steps of the book on the training, but everything. I mean, I was just like blown away. My husband, he's like totally skeptical, you know. And so I got so curious about it. It's like one of the tools that you use with a pendulum is chart book. So I bought this chart book, and there's an alphabet chart in there, and it immediately started spelling words. And
Wow.
suddenly I realized I'm talking to my mom and dad who have crossed over, and I'm getting messages from them. And then I find out my guides, I'm talking to my guides, I'm talking to my guardian angel, and just by using this chart. And so, it was kind of a process, but it went very, very quickly. So I immediately felt the need to call this woman that was talking about this pendulum on the Gaia interview, because I had gone to her website and she had two training programs, certification programs. One was just really connecting to your own higher guidance, and the other was becoming a higher guidance life coach. Now, I was still running my business, and I'm like, I don't think I can do that, because how am I going to do that and do this, right? But I was so intrigued by it. So I called her up, and she had a self-study program. So I just talked to her. She was really super sweet. And she said, if you do the first part, you feel drawn still to the higher guidance coaching program, which is not a self-study program. You're in a class, then I'll just credit your investment towards that. So that's what I did.
Hmm.
By the end of like 3 months working through this, my dowsing skills became like really crazy, super fast. And, it was just really fun. And so I did the higher guidance. So I spent the next 6 months, and this is 2020.
Mhm.
So the first half of 2020, when we're in shutdown, all of this stuff is going on. Our business actually was thriving because we produced something that people needed during the pandemic. So we're having like the best year ever. And at the same time, I'm going through this training and trying to figure out what am I going to do with this. And I just felt like, okay, I feel like I'm going to just do this on a part-time basis for now and figure it out. Let my guides help me figure it out, right?
Mhm.
So that's pretty much what I did. I mean, I decided that I was going to just lean into all of this, see where it takes me. And so yeah, it was a pretty crazy time, and by the end of it, I did start a higher guidance life coaching practice on a part-time basis.
Awesome. And so, how did it get from the next questions regarding your higher guidance life coaching? What led you into this practice? You already answered that question, but how did you get from that to where you are now?
Yeah, so that's a whole nother journey. Um, yeah, so during the time that a couple things happened while I was going through the higher guidance life coaching training. First of all, one of the students, we were discussing this book called The Emotion Code. So I read the book really quickly. It really resonated with me. It's about, I never thought of it in these terms, but trapped emotions, emotional baggage. We
Mhm.
trap emotions in our body because we're stuffing them and we're not expressing them. And what happens is it starts to cause pain and discomfort and even illness in our body. And so my guides were pushing me towards taking this emotion code certification. So I'm like, okay, told myself I was going to lean in. So let's let's do this. And I did, and I was really kind of blown away by what was happening. And then there's a second part to this. It's called the body code. And the body code is what's super powerful. So there's a whole nother certification on the body code. So once I did the first one, I started doing the second one. And this is about releasing not only trapped emotions, but misalignments and imbalances in the body that can cause illness and pain and discomfort. And
Mhm.
so there's a process for identifying and then releasing them. And so not only did I become certified as a higher guidance life coach, that same year I became a certified body code practitioner. So now I had two parts, to this part-time business. And I mean, I was getting amazing results from this, and I was really kind of blown away by it.
Awesome. So what led you into opening a business? Was it the Harmonic Egg? Is that what actually got you into a physical, like, brick and mortar?
Yeah, so just to kind of back up a little bit, um, I haven't talked much about my husband because, here we are running this business. And in 2019 was when I first discovered the pendulum. I was doing that training. Well, in November of 2019, before the pandemic, my friend that was the feng shui consultant and intuitive, she had moved to Hawaii in 2017, and so she was having a retreat. And I'm like, we really need this. Maui's a very spiritual place, and I need to be there. And so you can come or not. And so he came, and he had his own spiritual awakening in Maui.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, yeah, it was pretty amazing. So we were on the road to Hana, and one of our guides, as we were walking towards, we were kind of going on a little hike towards this little pond and waterfall, and he pulled out a Native American flute and started playing. And I didn't know it at the time, but it just kind of totally mesmerized Steve, and he just got totally enthralled with it. So when we came home, and I'll say too, on that day on the road to Hana, as we approached the waterfall, he saved a life. And so it was a very emotional day for him.
Wow.
There were all these boulders that we had to cross in order to get over to the waterfall. And I crossed, and Steve was behind me. I said, why don't you help these other two ladies? They were in their 70s. And so he was kind of helping them across. He had the one gal's hand, and he was holding on. And she's like, okay, I'm fine. You can let go. And so he hesitated, but then he let go. And he went to help the other lady. And all of a sudden there was a scream, and the first lady had fallen into this hidden hole. It was covered over by vegetation. She was hanging on for dear life. She had her arms were the hole was, here, and she was holding herself up with her arms and one leg. The other leg was dangling. There was water rushing underneath her, and he just kind of turned and pivoted. He grabbed her arm and he pulled her right out of that
Wow.
hole. I mean, it was people that I was already down. I didn't see it. And so another gal that was trying to help, and she's like, I had no leverage, but he just, I mean, his adrenaline was like, and he's very strong. So I was like, thank God he was there. So yeah, it was a pretty emotional thing. So anyway, he got home and he bought a Native American flute and started teaching himself how to play. And he just took to it like a duck to water. He was so good. And then he got interested in sound healing. And so he's all of a sudden he's buying Tibetan bowls and taking a certification. And so I'm like, this is really cool because here I am on this spiritual path, and now he's suddenly on a spiritual path. What is going on here? And
That's so
then
cool.
yeah. So then that following spring, 2020, back to Gaia, I'm listening to an interview with Gail Lynn, who invented the harmonic egg. So this is the harmonic egg behind me, and very small version. It's very large. You sit inside the harmonic egg. It's all about sound and colored light therapy. It's an amazing modality. So I'm listening, and I'm like, oh my God, Steve's got to hear this. And so we both listened to the whole interview together. I kept pausing it, and we're turning to each other like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And we had been pondering up until this point, like, okay, so he's really interested in the sound healing. I'm really interested in the higher guidance and the healing part of it. And so, but we had this successful business that was making us some decent money, right? So, to start over at our age, and then
Right? It's
this
hard to
is,
let go of that.
yeah, and it's hard to start a business like this from scratch, and people don't
Yeah.
understand it. And we're like, how does this work? And so I just was like, I don't know, put it out to the universe, help us out here. And so guess what? I'm like over the wrong shoulder. This thing, we listened to the interview and we're like, oh my God, that's a business. that can be the centerpiece of the business, while Steve and I are each doing our own things. And so that led us to doing this. And, he does sound baths now that attract people into our center. They see the egg, they get exposed to what I'm doing. And so they all just go together so well. It's just amazing. And so we had to it wasn't an immediate, okay, so this was like, we heard the interview in May and I was sold. I was like, okay, this is it. This is our path, And Steve's like, but I do kind of like what I'm doing, you know. And so there was a lot of discussion. It's like, well, we've got a business to sell. We have employees. We have, this team, and how is this all going to work? Where are we going to do it? Because we were in the Twin Cities, and honestly, we had wanted to live in the South for so many years. And then there was an egg coming to St. Paul, which meant we really couldn't open here because she doesn't really have territories, but she protects the eggs so that there aren't other eggs too close, so that we can all be successful. And so I'm like, okay, if we're going to do this, we need to move. And I want to move to Arizona because that's where I want to be. And so it was a lot of discussion. So by the end of the year, and we never called Gail because I was afraid that if we started talking about it before we had sold our business, she wouldn't take us seriously because it takes a lot to sell a business, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, by the end of the year, we were both convinced that this was what we were supposed to do. We reached out to a couple of people that we knew would be interested in our business. They were. And so by the end of February, we were in negotiations for the sale of our business. We called Gail. She vets people. She does not sell harmonic eggs to just anyone.
Nice.
And we both really, we did it of course on Zoom, but we all just, it just gelled. And she's like, oh yeah, absolutely. You guys would be perfect. And so, yeah, that started the journey. And so that was February. We got our harmonic eggs, and we have two of them. We thought we would have one, but it worked out to where we could do two. And that was supposed to be in December. So the months between March and July were absolutely crazy. Once we made the decision, the sale of the business was in process in March. We're like, okay, we have a house to sell. We have to find a house. So we found a condo to stay in for the month of April in Scottsdale. And so we are like, we got to find a house. And of course, as you know, Stephanie, last year, this was 2021, housing market here was bonkers. I mean, we had a referral to a realtor, and he's like, there's 20 to 30 offers on every single home. It's taking people weeks, if not months, to get a home. So he's trying to keep our expectations low. And we're like, we're not going to go there. We have to find a house. And so you're going to find us a house. 5 days after we got here, we had a house.
I love how spirit works.
I know. And the day we left, we drove. And so the day we left, April 1st, we put our house on the market, and our house had 3 offers that night. So we're like, now we really got to find a house or we're going to be homeless. And so, yeah, it was. And then we had to get back to get our house ready for sale. So we had the month of May to do that, closed on that house June 1st, headed back to Arizona. Our house is in Mesa, and we started searching for a space to have our wellness center. And so we found a space over the summer. We moved in September. It was early, but it gave us time to get everything all set up. And I mean, there's a lot of work to getting a business ready, right? So yeah, and here we are. It's such a short time later. Our business has been sold now for over a year. And I mean, we absolutely love everything that we're doing.
That's so great.
Yeah. And the people that come through that we're working with and with the Harmonic Egg is like, it's just mind blowing, the stuff that we're seeing. So,
wow, so beautiful. So tell me a little bit more about emotion code and body code and how it works. So I personally have some chronic pain that I've been holding on to for quite some time, and I would love to release it. So does it work on chronic pain?
Yeah. So what happens is there's actually 6 primary areas of the body that we'll go into, and this is very visual for my clients. So I have clients that come here, and I can do it over Zoom, and there's actually an app that illustrates the 6 areas. And so we might go into different organs or glands that are out of balance or misaligned. We go into the skeleton. I mean, we go into the meridian system. We go into different trauma areas, so past traumas. People have idea allergies. If you understand what that's all about, we get into, ancestral stuff. So it's very, very in depth. We even get into nutrition. And so,
Wow.
yeah, there's even a whole chart for foods that your body wants. So that's not
Very
about releasing,
holistic.
but that's about, giving your body what it needs to
Yeah.
heal. And so, yeah, I mean, I'll give you a couple examples. So I had a gal, she has always had really super tight calves. And she has said, I have never in my life been able to have a massage where someone can actually massage my calves. And so we did 3 sessions. And at the end of the third session, she definitely was feeling a difference. But she said, okay, well, the test is going to be, I got a massage scheduled. And she emailed me afterwards. She's like, that is the first time I've ever been able to have anybody massage my calves.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, I mean, and then I had another gal that had been living with eczema for 20 years, and it got really bad. And she had some really harsh prescriptions, and she really didn't like using them, but there were times where it got so bad that she had to. And
Right.
so we did several sessions. We did 3 initially, which helped her a lot. It didn't completely go away, but then she called me a couple months later. She's like, can we do a couple more sessions? And so, yeah, I was getting that there was more work to do around this. And so, by the end of that, she's like, I don't ever feel that, like, that itchy, irritated sensation coming on when it's going to break out. And I don't have to take that really harsh medication anymore. It's super manageable for me. And then kind of my most recent client that I've been working with just these last few weeks, she's 15 years old and has had asthma since she was 5. And it's difficult for a child. I mean,
Oh,
she's
yeah.
also allergic to animals. And so all her friends, of course, have dogs and cats. No, I can't come over because, I'm allergic. And so she was coming in with her mom, and it was just quite amazing. They love going to rodeos. She loves horses. And,
Oh,
imagine a rodeo with the horses and the dust. And after 2 sessions, they even, yeah, she had gone to 2 rodeos we did 3 sessions. And after the third session, I mean, she was seeing a huge difference just after the second. By the third session, they had gone to another rodeo, and a dust storm came in. And normally she's got her inhaler, she's got a box of Kleenex, she's got Benadryl, and then she could never make it through an entire rodeo.
wow.
She made it through. There was really no place to hide from the dust storm. She never had to use her inhaler. She took one Benadryl and she made it through. And so now what we're going to do is, so the body code is about getting to the root cause of a lot of this stuff and releasing that stuck energy. Because, if you think about the energy of a trapped emotion, it's like a ball of energy. It's like a fist, size of a fist of energy. And so no wonder it's blocking things, right? So
Correct.
she had all this, if you can release all this, the meridians flow again. Everything starts flowing again. And but she's had 10 years of asthma, and there's damage, to her body from that. So we're going to start doing harmonic egg sessions now with her, to help her. Now, this is about self-healing and putting you in an environment where your body can heal itself.
Yeah.
So the music is, the sound is actually music. It's a very high quality music. So you can see it's an egg shaped, and on either end of the egg, there are speakers that come in, and we use really high quality music. It's not MP3 compressed files like you're listening to on your phone. The inside of the egg is smooth. So the music is in the egg is also made of wood. So it's very resonant. It's like being on the inside of a guitar. And
Cool.
so it kind of swirls around you. It's not like music bouncing off the walls and all of that. And then we have color above you, color below you, and all the colors have different things that they can work on. So, for example, if someone's got digestive problems, we typically use orange and yellows, which kind of match up with the sacral and solar plexus chakras.
Mhm.
Those are the colors of those chakras. Green is a very healing color. So there's meaning behind everything we do with the settings in the egg. The music is especially, we don't just play any music in there. It's based on the instruments that are in the music. So, for example, we use a lot of piano music for stress relief because it's very calming. We use harp for depression. We use drumming for autoimmune conditions. So there's a lot of, preparation that makes it individualized for the person going into the egg.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
I did have a chance to sit in your egg, and it was a really powerful experience for me as well. I can see why you were so attracted to it and
Yeah.
why you did this. It's just so perfect
Yeah.
with the higher guidance training and the emotion code of the body code, and then your husband's sound healing and this harmonic egg. It blends so beautifully.
Yeah. And, Steve has since also started another certification himself. He's becoming certified in quantum touch. Turns out he's
Okay.
a pretty powerful healer. And you mentioned chronic pain, and this quantum touch he's been doing amazing things for pain relief. So yeah, so now we found like all the different ways that we can help people with their healing.
That's
So it's,
beautiful.
yeah,
I've been on this journey for quite some time, and I've gotten to a point where I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to release whatever is stuck in my body. Just like let's get rid
yeah,
of all of it so that I can move forward with success and make beautiful things and just not be blocked by anything anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the harmonic egg is all about getting to the root cause of things too. So and I told you, when you came in for your session, that the first thing we work on is the autonomic nervous system, because your body cannot heal itself if your autonomic nervous system is out of whack. And most people are stuck in fight or flight. They're not in homeostasis. And so the harmonic egg is kind of retraining your body as to this is how it's supposed to feel. And so
Right.
once we can get a person into homeostasis, then we can start working on some of the other issues that they're dealing with. Yeah, and the thing is, when you're talking about sound waves, sound frequency, light frequency, it travels through water really well. And so our bodies are mostly water, as we all know. And so that's why when we say it works at a cellular level, it does, because those waves are traveling through our body. And a lot of people, they'll say, "Oh, wow, I felt tingling, in
Mhm.
certain parts of my body." Some people twitch. It's kind of like a release. We had a gal that her leg kicked out. She had an ankle injury like 3 years before. She was a Reiki practitioner, so she's like, I thought I dealt with all of that. But obviously I had something else to release, right? And we recently had a guy that was he had a stroke, 42 years old, and had a stroke.
Whoa.
His right hand and forearm were pretty much immobile. He couldn't use his fingers, his hand at all. And he's a software engineer, so he was so anxious to get back to work. They weren't even going to do physical therapy right away. And he's like, I have to get back to work. And so he came in for a session. He did 2 sessions. And even after the first session, I mean, when Steve opened the door that first session, he's like, I don't know what just happened, but my hand and my arm were tingling, and the left side of my brain was tingling. Well,
Wow.
that's where the stroke
Yep.
happened.
Yep.
And within a few days, he was getting movement. He was able to move his arm up. He was getting movement. He was able to do some finger touches like that. And he just came in for his third session. His doctor told him that he wouldn't be back to work for like probably 8 or 9 weeks, and he was back in
Wow.
3 weeks.
After a stroke. That
Yeah.
is powerful.
So,
Wow.
I mean, and the thing to keep in mind with energy healing is you have to be receptive
Mm-hmm.
to, you have to be willing to receive. And he was open, he was so motivated, and we set intentions with every session, and his intention was, I want to get back to work. And so he was just open to, and it, he received. But his body does the work. I kind of liken it to when you break your arm, you break a bone, you put your arm in a cast so that it's an environment where it can heal itself, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
immobile so it can heal. This is kind of the same thing. We're putting you into an environment where your body can heal itself.
Yep.
So
Awesome. So, little bird told me that you have a new book in the works. Can
I
you tell me a little
do.
bit about that book and when it's going to be available?
Yeah, so I have been guided to write a book for years actually, but I never could figure out what it was supposed to be about until I went through this journey. And actually during this whole journey, I started writing my stories. My guides just kept saying, just write your stories, write your stories. I'm like, what stories? So it was stories about the struggles I've had in my life. I've had several things that have happened during my lifetime that were extremely challenging. And I write about those. Some of those challenges led to me creating many limiting beliefs, especially around money and success. And I've had success and I've had, money in my life. However, I was holding myself back. I was keeping myself in familiar territory, kind of afraid to step out of my box. And I know a lot of women especially can resonate with that. And so it's partly autobiographical about that. It's partly this journey that I just talked to you about. And it's the fun part of the book. You get to hear more detail about how this all evolved. And then the last part of the book, I actually involved three women who I did higher guidance life coaching with. And it's their stories of struggle. Now, they didn't have to do a complete life transformation like I did. Two of the women were actually already living their purpose. And, and when I talk about the spirit and spirit, working with your spirit guides, they're always guiding you towards living your purpose, right? And so they're always kind of steering that ship and giving you what you need to align your life. And so that's the name of the book. It's called Trust Your Higher Guidance, Align Your Life to Manifest the Joy and Success You Deserve. And so, for example, one of the women in the book, her business is her purpose. She loves what she does. She's a mind coach. She does hypnotherapy. But she knows that she has to get this book out of her. But the problem is she's been working on it for like 5 years. And she just writes what inspires her, and there's no coherence, no organization. And so her guides took us through this amazing process of organizing her book by doing the chapters and the subtitles. And so, and the other thing that I'll say about higher guidance is you also have stuff going on in your life, right? Personal stuff that's
Right.
always trying to take you off track. So she was getting on track with getting her book, but she had to suddenly move in with her parents and be the caregiver. Her mom had dementia. And so we did several sessions early last year. We took a break in the summer. Her mom got worse. She ended up passing away. And so, obviously the book is not priority right now, right? We did get back and do some more sessions in the fall. And so little by little, she started getting back to it, but she's still dealing with her father. And so, but she's being guided. And so this book illustrates how that all works. And so people can really visualize. It's actually a transcript of the sessions. So you'll see where I use different modalities like cards or book passages or charts and different things. So for example, if it's a card, like a tarot card or something like that, I actually get a passage out of the book for the card. So there's a specific message there for my client. And then they get another message from their guides that I channel. So this is a little different than how other people do readings. A lot of people, they'll get impressions, they'll get symbols, and they'll interpret that. But for me, I'm actually channeling the messages for them. So that's really cool because then they get that transcript and they can reflect back on it.
Awesome.
So
So, how can people reach you?
So, well, first of all, the book is going to be released in September of
Right.
2022. So there is more information about it on my website. So my website is jeanhanson.com. That's Hanson with an O,
Right.
Jeanhanson. And then I do have another website for the Harmonic Egg if you're local to the area, or we actually do remote sessions with the egg as well. But that's
Oh,
Realign Your
wow.
Life. Yeah, realign my handle for Instagram is Jean Hanson Healer, and I have a Facebook page, Jean Hanson Healer. I have two Facebook groups, and so I think Stephanie, you're going to put all this in the notes below
Yes,
the
I will.
video. So, but I've got a really amazing group called Enlightened Messages for Spiritually Minded Souls. So if you're in Facebook groups, the link is Enlightened Messages. And then I have another one. And with that one, I'll do readings, and I also channel messages from my guides that are really, really beautiful messages that people need to hear and receive. And then I have Take Charge of Your Health AZ, another Facebook group that I just recently started. So that's really good for so much healing. So
So
yeah.
awesome. Wonderful. Well, that is all of the questions I have for you. Do you have any closing thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah. So, you know, um, I just wanted to let people know that everybody has a purpose in this life, but your purpose can change over time. So, my purpose right now is totally different than what it's been for most of my life. And, I actually just had a couple in here. They did a harmonic egg session. They're in their 70s, and they wanted to do a higher guidance coaching session as well. And the gentleman, the husband, he's in a lot of pain, and you could tell he just struggles with the pain and stuff. And so the message that came through for him from his guides was, you don't think you have a purpose in life, but you do. And his purpose is to set the example of for his children and for his grandchildren of how you can deal with so much pain and suffering and do it with grace.
Oh,
And yeah. And so that was so beautiful. And, so I mean, that's such a perfect example of someone, elderly that thinks they have nothing to live for. They do. I mean, I just lost my aunt who was 102, and she brought so much joy to the people around her. There's definitely purpose for everyone.
yeah.
And,
Awesome.
yeah. So for me, I mean, my purpose of being a healer, I mean, Steve and I talked about this. It's like, why couldn't we have done this like years ago? Like, well, we wouldn't have had the egg then. It wasn't invented yet. You know? And I do find that when I do my sessions, guides often pull me into the coaching part of it, by sharing a lot of the things that I've been through. So, it's one thing to get messages from your guides. It's another thing to talk to someone who has lived through that or who has similar experiences, and that, it
Yeah.
really makes it real, and it gives you motivation to keep carrying on.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jean. This has been an amazing conversation. And well, I wish you lots and lots of success because honestly, I think what you're doing is so needed and so important.
Thank you,
So thank you
Stephanie.
so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to get the word out. So,
Definitely. Okay. Have a great day.
you too.